Welcome back to the Have Not Room. Back here once again with Chad and Brian, as always, to cover another week of Big Brother 22, BB All-Stars. We only have 3 weeks left in the season here, so we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, closing out the season.
Honestly, thank God.
For real.
I love Big Brother. I love talking Big Brother with you guys, but this season.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's always BB Can 9, you know.
I'm looking forward to it. I got my VPN paid for and everything, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. We don't have a ton to talk about here. We did a special episode post Triple Eviction last week where we covered all of the craziness or, maybe a little timidness that happened during that episode. So this episode, we're really just kind of focusing on the now Monday night episode of this week and then forecasting the upcoming eviction and kind of what we're looking at towards this last few weeks of Endgame.
And honestly, how unlucky are they? They get bumped by CBS for the Sunday movie. Fine, whatever. They'll be Monday night, and then Cam Newton gets COVID. You know, Cam, we're all praying for you. Make a speedy recovery, especially Ben and Chad. But it bumps the Patriots and Chiefs to Monday night, and then we have to air Big Brother at nearly 10 o'clock. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, it was a long night, especially as a Patriots fan, having to sit through that game and then sit through an hour of Big Brother 22.
Nightmare.
Definitely a little bit of a rough few hours of television viewing experience, but yeah. Do you have any immediate thoughts coming off of this HOH episode, Chad?
I mean, with Cody as my winner pick, I'm happy. But that's I am very happy with my pick, but this episode was another, boring one. I feel like not a lot really happened. It's so predictable now. But I think, these next few HOHs is going to be really interesting to see who wins, especially if we get a Memphis or Christmas win. I think my boy Cody could run into a little trouble, but hopefully he's locked it down. But we'll see.
Yeah, I know something that was brought up about the past or about last night's episode was the amount of commercials that they had.
Oh my god! Yeah.
In the runtime ended up being over an hour for the episode, and on top of that, they had to cover some of the shenanigans that happened in the triple eviction at the start of the episode. When in that episode they had a ton of commercials. So.
They're getting their money's worth of this All-Star season, I guess.
Yeah.
Big Brother needs money. Maybe
Apparently.
they can make better seasons.
Hire better game producers.
Oh, something.
I mean, look, a lot of people this season have been like, oh, the game of Big Brother is fundamentally broken, and it's just it's all the producers' fault. I think that the producers did pretty much as much as they could in this season. I think that
Agreed.
we really kind of just have to look at the players on this cast kind of just playing a little bit. I don't want to say suboptimally because there are a handful of pretty solid players, but there's definitely a lack of self-interest that we've seen. Particularly from the player who's the likely evictee this week, Tyler Crispin. What do you think of Tyler's kind of storyline for the season, coming out of what's probably his last week, Brian?
Well, he was looking so good for so long, and then I really feel like once his whole drama of wanting to self-evict happened, he just completely lost focus and lost sight of what his main goal of the game should have been, because I felt like we talked about it on the show that he was doing a decent job of thinking several moves ahead, putting pieces in place, going to potentially take control of the game. And then after that whole BB breakdown, if you will, in the have-not room, he just didn't have that fire in him. And it almost seemed like he was just playing like, we'll see what happens. Like, if I win, I win. If I get voted off, whatever. Which is disappointing because Cody's not thinking like that, you know?
Yeah. Not even Memphis is thinking like that. I mean, like...
Oh, yeah, Memphis, too. He's playing very well. So, I think, obviously, winning the HOH and veto on the triple, great. Getting Danny out, okay. You know, if he had gotten Nicole and Danny out, maybe he's in, like, the driver's seat heading into the end game, but didn't work out that way. And... yeah, like you said, he most likely is going to be the boot unless something crazy happens, you know, the next couple of days. It's over for Tyler.
Yeah. Chad, do you have any thoughts? I mean, we can get into the episode as well, but you know, the focus of this week is definitely going to be mostly on Tyler, you know, being evicted for the first time in his BB career.
I mean, I think Brian summed it up pretty well. It just felt like, you know, he ran out of gas when he, you know, was talking about quitting. And, you know, we've all heard the rumor that it took, you know, an executive producer of the show to convince him to stay, which who knows if that's 100% true, but, you know, I kind of believe it. But yeah, I felt like he just lost all his passion for the game. Whether you attribute it to homesickness, just not wanting to play anymore. You know, I'm sure it was a mix of everything. You know, and maybe he was a little truthful and he felt bad about, you know, what was going on in the show in terms of, you know, with everything with Black Lives Matter and, you know, a lot of the big storylines with early on in the episodes with, you know, Devon and Bailey and everyone, Kaser as well, and Kevin. But I'm sure it was a mix of a bunch of things that made him feel that way. And when he stayed, he was just dragging his feet. And now it's, you know, biting him in the ass. If he played harder, maybe he'd be in a better spot. But, you know, this is as far as it's going to take him. You know, this is it.
I almost feel like, maybe this is a completely bad read, but I almost feel like his kind of reckless abandon in his mind, he was like, I'm either going to end up out pre-jury with the moves I'm making, like the being sneaky and stuff, or I'm going to be firmly in control of the game. And then he ended up not out pre-jury and not in control of the game. And he kind of like was in a weird spot where he didn't really know how to play from just like the middle of the pact, having pretty successfully eliminated the opposing alliance in his initial season by the jury phase and being, you know, the far and away like leader of his alliance. Like, he didn't really know how to play from the middle, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that was kind of apparent with his like failed vote flip against Nicole during the triple, where it's not a situation where he has zero power like somebody like David had. Like he had enough power and like enough of a good relationship with Christmas to get her to, you know, vote with him, and you know has this final two deal with him. So he had like enough power to like get it, you know, maybe, you know, 2/3 of the way there, but he didn't have the social relationships and the power at that point to sway somebody like Enzo away from Cody. And I think that, yeah, a lot of that can be attributed to him kind of like going full throttle in the start of the game and then pulling back and not really like picking the pieces up correctly because he was so preoccupied with wanting to self-evict. And if he had like kept his foot on the throttle and hadn't had that, you know, week or two of indecision and, you know, mopiness and, you know, not really trying as hard and if he had actually been able to maintain relationships that he was building with people like Enzo, there's a chance that he comes into this endgame with more of a social sway to pull off a move like that, and to have a position coming in to this week to either avoid the block or to not get evicted. If David is here and he has a good relationship with Enzo, there's a chance that maybe David goes instead. Maybe Christmas goes instead.
Mm. Yeah, and it's tough because when you have so much success on an initial season, and you see this, I think very famously Tyson from Survivor said that he was looking forward to playing with people who only played once and won because they don't know the signs of stuff going wrong because everything went correct. I think kind of a similar thing to Tyler where maybe he just didn't have the experience within the game enough to recognize that, oh, Enzo's pulling away from me. Enzo's closer with Cody. Enzo's closer with Memphis than he is with me. I don't know. Maybe that's just like speculation based on results, but just something I've been thinking about a little bit.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah. So I guess looking at this episode that we had, there wasn't a ton that we learned from the triple eviction that we didn't already kind of piece together. Like it was pretty clear from what was going on in the episode that Tyler was the one pushing for Nicole to go, and that Enzo was making the conscious decision to not go along with this plan that Tyler had come up with because of his loyalty to people like Cody and Memphis, which, while obviously annoying and frustrating from a viewer perspective, I think is technically the correct play. I do think that Enzo has a better chance of making it to an end game that's favorable to him, with people like Cody and Memphis still on his side, especially because they've shown to be the two biggest competitors in the game. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Enzo... I know we kind of talked a little bit about this after the triple eviction, but now with a little bit more information from this episode, do you think that Enzo made the correct decision, even if it wasn't the exciting decision for the television product?
It's tricky for sure, but I think, if you're in Enzo's shoes, Cody is your closest ally, along with Memphis, and voting out Nicole would piss both of them off. And what you're so close to that, that finale night. They're down to 6. If he theoretically must have had three evictions, and two of your closest allies being the two beasts in the house. And I think it's tough. I don't know if Enzo can beat Memphis. I think with Cody, Cody wins it, but maybe it'll be slim margin. Same with Memphis. I think Enzo's in a decent spot, but it depends who he's next to. But keeping Nicole around, it's just so tricky. I don't think he can sit next to either Cody or Memphis and win, but it gets him another week closer. So I can see in the heat of the moment why he would take the safe play. Voting on Nicole there would have just been craziness, and Cody might have been pissed, and there goes his final 2. So I don't know. It's tough. I see why he did it. I totally understand, and I think it's probably the right move.
Yeah, I think from the position he's in, he talked a lot about having coverage on all sides where no one was coming after him. So to stay in the game, I think, this is definitely the right move. I think his failings are bigger than this week. I think he's not maneuvered himself in a way to where people are looking at him as somebody who's running the game, as someone who's moving, the votes, which makes his path to victory very narrow in terms of who is he going to beat at this point. Christmas probably is the only person he's going to beat, and in order to get there, They both have to win competitions, which is no guarantee. And that's what I'm more concerned about. Like, he made the right move to stay in the game, but what's the point in staying in the game if you're not going to win the game?
Yeah, I mean, I agree in theory, but I think that at the point that he's at, where it's like down to this, like, you know, group of 7 or 8 people, and he's in the position he's in, I think that his only pathway to win at this point is to try and position himself in like a final 3 with Memphis and Christmas and try and win the final HOH and take Christmas, or potentially if Memphis wins the final HOH and makes what I would think would be a mistake in taking Enzo, I think that final 2 could be a toss-up. So I don't think that final 3 is that unlikely. Like you say that, you know, they would have to win comps to get there, but I think it would just more be Cody losing a comp, either losing the veto at the final 5, or if he lost in both comps at the final 4. I think that there's a decent chance that Cody could get sniped out before the end, which is definitely something that that Enzo would need in order to win. And I think that if Cody wins out, I think he's like very likely the winner, regardless. And that's not something that Enzo can really play around no matter what.
Right.
So I do think that this is a narrow victory path, but I think that it's less narrow than his other paths.
Right. Yeah, because the gaming that would have had to go on in order to him to be in the position to where he's the, you know, presumed favorite like Cody is now would have taken a lot that I don't know if Enzo's necessarily a capable enough player to pull that off. He's not Derek, you know. He's not Dr. Will. He's not, you know, he's a good player, but he's not like a master social manipulator like some of the other players we've seen. But yeah, I mean, to touch on what you said about Cody, like, I'm so impressed. Like, we talked about at the beginning of the season that he has all the, you know, charisma and athleticism and intelligence to put it all together to potentially win. But I think he's done, like, everything right this season. Like, to me, he hasn't made a mistake at all yet.
Well, that's interesting because now we can transition, I guess, into, we've talked about like Tyler's game with him being the likely person being evicted. And you think that Cody hasn't made a mistake. So do you think that Cody evicting Tyler here over Christmas is correct then? If you know, assuming that Cody is able to actually exert his will onto the people who are actually voting?
I think in terms of competitors, in terms of people who would potentially block him from the veto, I think Tyler is a better competition player than Christmas is. Christmas hasn't shown me, this sounds bad, but Christmas hasn't really shown me anything in her 2 seasons. Like, most of the comps she's won have been thrown to her, which is great. Getting comps thrown to you, that's nice. Or people missing buttons, hitting the wrong buttons. But I think Tyler is just such a endgame beast, and if he wins, you know, Final 5 HOH or, you know, Final 4 veto, like, Cody is in a lot of trouble. Tyler would recognize that Cody's a threat more than Christmas, who Christmas I feel like is so easily influenceable. You can, like, if you're Cody, you could probably even be like, yo, you don't want to get me out. You want to get to the end with, like, the biggest competitor, right? Like, you're all about competing. And she would be like, yeah, I am all about competing, and keep Cody. I think Tyler's on to Cody in ways that Christmas is not onto him.
Sure. I can agree with that, I guess, but in a practical sense, if both of them would put him up, I guess, why does it matter? But I guess, yeah, I don't know.
I'm just looking at it like, if I had to get past these 2 people,
right,
and they're both coming after me,
Sure.
I would take my chances with Christmas before I would take my chances with Tyler.
You're talking about like Cody's best path to the end right now is winning out, and it's easier for him to win out against Christmas. Is like the kind of crux of the argument.
Yeah. I mean, that's assuming that like these other players are in the same headspace as us, being able to watch everything from the outside and understand that Cody's playing an amazing game. I assume they are. I assume Memphis is at least, threatened by Cody and knows that probably his biggest competition in terms of, the argument of like who controlled the house more is Cody, and in that sense, Memphis would want to get him out. But I don't. Maybe I'm giving too much credit where it's not due.
No, I think that's the case. At least potentially for the Final Four. I think Memphis is still probably targeting Nicole for next week, but I think Memphis's ideal Final Three is him and Zone Christmas.
Yeah, which is that's what he should want. What is the general feeling on Nicole right now? Obviously, she's a former winner, but I feel like her game has been really weak this season, to the point where I don't think just being a former winner and getting this far is enough to like potentially carry her to a win. Is that accurate, would you say? Or
I mean, I think so. I think that it would be difficult for her to win a jury vote at this point against anyone except maybe Christmas, just because Christmas is pretty like widely despised by many members.
Poor Christmas. Actually, not poor Christmas. She did it all to herself, but like it's just hilarious.
Yeah, I do think that Nicole is. I think Danny kind of said it in her exit interview with Julie, where like nobody actually thinks of Nicole as a winner, which is kind of
that's mean, but it's funny. I mean, she didn't win in a way that is threatening, like Jordan in BB11. Jordan wasn't a huge threat. Like Brendan and Jeff were targeted before Jordan on BB13 as bigger threats. Even though Jordan won the game, like she was never seen as someone who could grab control of the game and like make people do what what she wanted.
Yeah, I do think also the fact that we're going into the Final Five and Nicole has yet to win a competition does not reflect well on her in terms of her being viewed by the jury. I don't know, Chad. What do you think Nicole has to do to win this season? What's her best case scenario path?
Nicole's best case, which she would honestly have to win out. I think she would at least have to win an HOH now. Survive the block the following week and then win again. She has no resume. Like, if let's say she theoretically floats to the end with Cody, like what's her jury speech? Like, hey, I made it. Like, I survived every vote. Like, I'm a former winner. No one targeted me. Like, that's not enough to win over someone who. If Cody makes Final 2 because he wins out, because that's probably how he makes it. There's no way Nicole's beating that. I don't think Nicole can really beat anyone except maybe Christmas, but like you said, that's because everyone hates her, not because Nicole's a good player. I think she would have to make power moves now. Like next week, she would have to win HOH, get someone like Memphis out, and then win a veto. She'd just have to win comps and like make moves now and like explain her moves well and have a really solid jury speech. And try to like glorify this strategy of just anyone but me, which I don't think she does it. I don't see it at all. I don't see her beating really anyone. I mean, maybe Christmas, but even then, it's just if Christmas and Nicole are Final 2, then BB22 can just like get right off. Like I'm done with it.
Here's the thing. I think that you kind of point out something that I think is kind of an inherent contradiction in what Nicole's path is, where I agree that she needs to grab power here, and I agree that the only person that she can theoretically beat in the Final 2 is Christmas. The issue, therefore, comes, like, what happens if she wins the Final 5 HOH? I think she likely puts up Memphis and Christmas, and I think there's a high possibility that Christmas goes home. She would have to put up Memphis and Christmas and get Cody, presumably, to agree to vote out Memphis with her, and she would have to know that that's the thing that she needs to do. And I don't think either of those things are likely. So kind of paradoxically, she needs to win probably the veto next week and then the final 4 HOH, because I don't think she'll actually make the correct move even if she were to grab power.
Right. So yeah, it's even harder. Because she doesn't know what to do to win. That sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. If we're drawing it up, this is how you win, Nicole. You win the final 5 HOH. You put up Enzo and Memphis. You or Cody win the veto. You keep them. One of them goes. You go into the next round. You win the veto. You vote Memphis out. You get to the final 3. You win the final 3 HOH, and you cut Cody. That could win you the game. But that's not going to fucking happen.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be the flawless, 100% or speed run 100%, best case scenario.
That requires her winning 3 competitions against people like Memphis and Cody. It requires her knowing that this is the only path for her to execute and then also executing it. And then it also requires her to still therefore win a jury vote. It's so many, it's maybe 0.1%, which I still think her win equity is higher than Christmas's. So I think Christmas's is essentially 0. Mm-hmm. But at this point, it's not happening. I agree. I think that the only 3 feasible winners are the 3 feasible winners that we've pretty much been talking about for the last month and a half, which are Cody and Memphis.
Yeah, GG to them. They've been in power all season. They haven't fucked up really. They made it really boring for us, but I guess you can't argue with success. The committee, possibly the most dominant alliance of all time. Fair to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Also the most boring.
The comparison points are the Brigade and the Pretty Boys, who also got, N-1 of their N members to the final, whatever, right? The Pretty Boys got their 4-person alliance to the final 5, and then they screwed it up. The Brigade got 3 of their 4 members to the final 3. The committee got 6 of their members to the final 7, and then the 7th person there was basically an official person in the alliance. So I don't know, the fact that a 6-person alliance made the final 7, that was an alliance that was made day 2 was pretty totally nuts.
Mm-hmm. I don't think do they ever have a moment where their target Ian is the only one, right? Or the only time that their initial target didn't go home?
Kevin was the initial target when Devon used the veto on him, yes. Right, that was when Ian went, yeah.
That was Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other time Kevin won and used the veto, Kaiser was the target anyway, so...
Yeah.
That's impressive. They were so good this season.
Yeah.
It made it a terrible viewing experience, but props to them.
Who founded the committee? Was it Enzo as well?
No, it was Memphis.
It's Memphis. With his telephone strategy.
Yeah, Memphis put together this alliance that we all made fun of and didn't have a name for 2 weeks. And it ran the season. And
I believe he wanted to name it the Commission, and then I'm 100% sure Big Brother was like, please don't name it the Commission. That's a part of the Umbrella Academy.
No,
we'll get in trouble.
The Commission was the name of his final 2 with Cody.
Oh, okay. All right. My mistake.
Yeah. He wanted
to ever make air?
Yes.
Yeah.
He wanted to name it either the Usual or the Unusual Suspects, which also has copyright issues.
I remember.
the Tangela Pello, just a Pokemon, so many issues they got going on.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything else I want to talk about to you guys. I think we covered it pretty thoroughly.
Yeah,
yeah.
Before we sign off, I guess do each of the 3 of us want to claim one of Cody, Enzo, or Memphis? I assume that
my guy.
Yeah, I assume Sean wants to just stick with Cody. He's been He's been on it.
Ben, who do you want? Who do you want from Memphis?
Who do I want? Well, I mean, I did plant my flag on the Enzo train like 3 weeks ago and say that I think that Enzo's winning the season. I feel less confident about that now, but I feel like I have to stick with that.
Right. So I'll take Memphis, and we'll see. Man, I've been rooting against Memphis so hard this season. It's going to be a weird juxtaposition.
It's the Memphis storyline is very strange because we've had this situation where Julie Chen has very awkwardly told every single person who has been evicted about the committee, and Memphis put this alliance together. He's a mastermind, And so I guess from a storytelling perspective, it would make sense for him to win.
It's going to play really well for people in 5 years who didn't watch this live.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, damn, Memphis is like Dan 2.0. He really took some notes before he came back in here.
Especially if Nicole goes as well next week, and the two halves of the Wise Guys Alliance are also the final four. I mean, on paper, it looks very good in terms of like a storyline for Memphis. So.
Unbelievable.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right, Memphis, bring it home, man.
If he wins, we'll be able to touch his ego from here, and we're in Massachusetts. So,
Yep. Oh, man.
Dan will also be pretty insufferable. I love Dan, but he's going to take a lot of credit, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think so. And he'll also be able to be like, I mean, Memphis ran All-Stars, and I beat Memphis, so, I'm even better than you guys thought. I beat them 9-0.
Mm-hmm.
What about Ian?
Yeah, and then, by the transitive property, Ian is actually the best player. But it gets messed up because Memphis beat Ian, so it's like a paradox, a snake eating its tail.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which we wouldn't have it any other way, I guess.
That's Big Brother.
Oh, man. All right, so with that, Ben, where can they find you online?
You can find me on all social media platforms pretty much at Ben Sharon. Sharon with 2 R's. Yeah,
Sharon,
I haven't been reading
you?
a lot about Big Brother, but,
Yeah. We got more important things going on in the world, I guess. Maybe you've heard of them. Chad, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at ChadleyJP and Twitter at ChadPerry25. Should be right here.
Awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at WG Everything, on Instagram at Wicked. Oh, no, sorry. You can follow me personally on Twitter at TheFakeBMar. That's BMARR. You can follow me on Instagram at Super Marlboro. You can follow the channel on Twitter at WG Everything, on Instagram at Wicked Good Everything, on Twitch at twitch.tv/Wicked Good Everything. Actually streamed for the first time in a year the other day, and we're hoping to do more of that. And of course, you can find the main channel at youtube.com/Wicked Good Everything. We will see you in the next one.